Is there something that we haven't talked about enough? We've talked about bonds, we talked about the currency market, we talked about the potential impact of tariffs. Is there something else that investors should really be paying attention to on the eve of this election?
Well, I think there's quite a bit. Interesting, that previous segment with Bob Pisani, he was talking about the debt. We have no idea what either of these candidates would do if markets decide that the U.S. national debt as a share of GDP is too high, as they've done in the past. What's the plan? We have no idea. You mentioned tariffs, of course. Would a second Trump term, would he really, do 200% tariffs, 1,000% tariffs? I don't know. The Inflation Reduction Act, pretty big bill, caused a lot of spending in a lot of states. Republicans seem to be kind of iffy. Do they want to repeal it? When they've said that we want to repeal it, then there's been some, clapback, and then they pulled it back. We have no idea. So, there's a lot of big policies here. I love that the economy is doing well. That takes away some of the risk. But big policies, and we don't know what they do about them or if these other issues should pop up. This has been too much an issue-free campaign.
It's so funny you say that, Jimmy. A lot of articles out over the weekend saying that because the economy is so strong, the job market, the stock market, whoever wins this election is actually going to have a lot of latitude to try to put their policies into place, as opposed to trying to address, a pandemic or, some type of economic crisis. Very quickly, let's just go over this really quickly. In your mind, if former President Trump wins, tariffs, is that a big risk to the market? And if so, what areas are you particularly looking at? And then if VP Harris wins, her policies, the idea that she might try to raise corporate taxes, things like that, what areas do you see in the market potentially being hurt by that?
Yeah. Well, listen, Trump has been talking about universal tariffs. The word universal, that covers a lot. And I noticed that the analysts who seem to downplay the potential impact of those tariffs almost universally assume that they won't happen, that they're purely a negotiating tool. So I think if you think that, then maybe that you come to one outcome. But if you think that we're actually going to do it, I find it hard to believe that is not a broad threat to the economy, not just sectors, but sort of economy-wide. President Harris, raising corporate taxes. One of the great things we've done over the past 20 years is lower the corporate tax rate, which was so high compared to other countries. Going in the other direction, again, a big policy, a broad policy that would affect a lot of companies. And again, we don't know what they want to do about those. And we don't know what we do in what we would do in a debt crisis. So that's what happens when you have a campaign where we don't have a lot of outlining. I think particularly, not to be harsh, particularly on the Republican side, about what he'd actually do beyond a lot of sort of rhetorical flourishes.
All right. Speaking of rhetoric, we heard some rhetoric surrounding the CHIPS Act. Republicans kind of putting out the idea that they might try to repeal it. In your mind, how real is that talk right there? And then, is that just automatically a negative for chips and potentially for tech as well, long term?
Well, I think if you think that's a good bill, the good thing is that it's that money's starting to flow, and it's starting to flow in states that Republicans think are important. The way I think about that, as well as some of the the clean energy subsidies, a lot like what President Trump said about NAFTA, is very critical about NAFTA, and then going into his first term, they basically just slightly reworked NAFTA, called it something different. And then Trump said, hey, we got rid of NAFTA. We got this new thing. It's much better. It's my thing. That's sort of, I think, really probably the worst case outcome for like the CHIPS Act is that, there's some sort of tweak. They call it something different, but it's basically the same thing. And I think you'd probably end up seeing that a lot with the clean energy subsidies. That'd be my best guess.
I think you're talking about the clean energy subsidies in the IRA, right? So any risk to the IRA, that money still being deployed in your mind?
Yeah, I think, listen, it's hard to say that you want the government to intervene more in the economy for the help of workers, as sort of President Trump and this sort of, new wave Republican Party is doing, and then pull that money back, especially when so much of it's going to red states. I think the location of where that money is being spent in all reality will mean that it will keep being spent because that's where the votes are. Again, he may end up calling it something else, but the money will still flow.